today's session. We are going to discuss on who is a DPO, what is the certifications related to that, right? How this course is different from others which exist in the market, who should take this course and why, and what are the course outcomes, right? That's what going to be the discussion points. So InfosecTrain, we are from 2016, and we are a leader in terms of training, especially security and data privacy training in India. These are some of our quick endorsements just for your eyes. Why InfosecTrain? So we do have quite flexible training schedules, training plans, right? And we are partner with IAPP and many more other international certification bodies, ISACA included. All right. So we start with the course introduction. So the DPO hands-on training is based on two important laws, which is going to be the DPDP Act and the GDPR. So why did we choose these two versions? One, my most of my participants are going to be from India, and that's the reason we kept DPDP Act as the primary denominator. But we also wanted to bring the best of data privacy law that exists globally. That's the reason we are also bringing GDPR as another important variant, because Indian DPDP Act is not that comprehensive compared to GDPR. Obviously, these are two different geographical spaces, so they have differences in culture, the way business runs. There is a lot of differences in different data privacy laws, but we want to pick GDPR so that we have a thorough understanding of requirements of how to run a program. Plus, this also gives you the edge to perform as a DPO anywhere around the world globally, right? So that's the intent of bringing two different variants part of this course. So you'll see a common denominator across all the chapters where we'll bring the comparison between DPDP Act and GDPR. So the course objective, so we are going to understand GDPR and DPDP Act. We are going to have a lot of discussion based content, and we will be dividing this into 8 different modules where we will be covering the core aspects of what is expected from a data protection officer to know and perform part of their job. So you will understand those nuances, and we will try to have those case study based approaches and exercises where you will understand how exactly to perform your role as a DPO. This is going to be the course coverage. So we are going to start with the introduction of DPDP Act and GDPR as a comparison. And then module 2 will be the data privacy governance, where we will be starting with a DPO roadmap and then your data privacy framework, basically in terms of your policy procedures, your vision, mission, strategy, and privacy by design and data privacy policy and notice. We are gonna look into detail how to craft them and exercises related to that. And module 3 will be data discovery, ROPA, and retention. So here we are going to discuss in terms of the different approaches of doing a data discovery, and in terms of how to build the inventory of personal data and records of processing activity. And we're gonna discuss a practical use case of filling a ROPA part of the session for one of the business function, and then we will be also taking up data retention, archival, data disposal, right, and related elements in detail. Now, module 4 will be your consent and cookies. So we are going to have a detailed discussion in terms of how do you present your notice and then jump on to the cookies, types of cookies, and how do you create your cookie policy, how do you do a cookie audit. That's going to be a very interesting part. We're going to do a detailed discussion on how do you perform a cookie audit with a practical use case on a website, and how will we understand the nuances part of it so that it helps you to build tomorrow's obligation of maintaining compliance with respect to cookie and consent. So that's module 4. And module 5 is assessments. We're going to look into the different types of assessments: privacy impact assessment versus DPIA versus audit, data protection impact assessment in detail, because that's a common denominator between GDPR and your DPDP Act, We are also going to look into the legitimate use assessment, and we also going to have a transfer impact assessment discussion as well. So we will have all the most important assessments covered part of module 5. And module 6 is going to be data subject rights management. We are going to see what are the different types of data subject rights granted by GDPR and DPDP Act, and how do you build a process and workflow. What are the derogations? How do you respond to a request, right? So that's your module 6. Module 7 is going to be your data breach management. And here it's a very important task in terms of your liabilities, especially with both DPDP Act and GDPR. You need to be very sure about how do you handle unfortunate incident or which is escalating into a breach situation. And we will be doing a lot of interesting exercises in this chapter in terms of identifying this, evaluating the severity, the criterias for notification, and the different use cases of how do you report it. All these things will be discussed on data breach management. And finally, the vendor management. So in vendor management, the conditions for data processor as per GDPR and DPDP Act. How do you perform vendor due diligence, drafting contracts and DPA agreements? We will be briskly looking at the core components, vendor risk assessment, and monitoring your data processor. So these are the 8 modules which we will be covering part of the course, right? So I'll then move on to the next important discussion point, that why this course, right? I think Mr. Vetri asked this question, like, is this course affiliated with any certification body, or is this being given by any particular institute with the backing? So answer is no. We will be very transparent about this. So I am an IAPP certified trainer. I take all the other variant which you see in the screen. So all the 3 variants I shuffle, and on a monthly basis I cover 2 certifications, right? But this variant is one of a long-standing ask from various candidates who cleared exam from my training. They wanted a hands-on approach, right? So this training is not an official by IAPP, neither it's not affiliated to any particular industry body. The reason what we are focusing here is not to just to give a certificate that's going to help you, but rather give you the knowledge and skill set that's going to be more important, right? So if you see, there are people who will be providing the same certificate, maybe 50,000, 60,000, or more than that in the market, right? They might do a tie-up with some industry body, but end of the day, people who have attended my training, they know it's more of what we are trying to achieve with the course in terms of knowledge is more important, right? Because any course, any certification on DPO is not going to have the value like what you see on the screen, like CIPP, CIPM, or CIPT, right? So these are all direct accreditation and a certification that comes from IAPP. No other certificate right now in the market which is qualifying you as a DPO, right? So that it doesn't exist with IAPP or ISACA or any of these industry bodies for India. So until then, for me, I would request, or maybe suggest everyone to think about getting a certificate which has a value when you're spending money. Is one important point. Second, again, how much the certificate is going to be valuable for organization to represent, right? So that's the reason I would say my certification course, whichever we are going to discuss, is more of giving you the knowledge rather than giving you that certificate paper that may not have a great value, to be very transparent with you. But it's more of what you're going to gain out of this course is going to make a clear difference. All right. So this is not affiliated anywhere. This is not from IAPP. Neither it's going to be anywhere else. We are not going to conduct any exam. We're not going to give you any certificate. Will you also be covering IT Act 2000? So IT Act, we are going to discuss DPDP Act, right? So why do we need to look at IT Act 2000, which we are going to see a more comprehensive version of the law, right? So that's there. With this training, can we attempt CIPP MT? To be honest, this course is not gonna be the foundation for other IAPP courses. The reason is you will still need to go through the textbook and the specific curriculum for CAPM and CAPT. It's completely different. And what I'm trying to do is more of a practical approach, right? So the curriculum for certification is very, very specific. That I'm not bringing it part of this, but definitely there will be overlap. It's going to help you for sure, but this is not a course for launching yourself directly to the certification. I would still recommend you need to go for CIPM and CIPT specific content, sorry, reading as well as preparation. This course will not cover what is required part of those two certification curriculum, right? When I say practical training, we are going to discuss what you're going to do part of your day-to-day work, right? In terms of foundation and fundamentals, what you need to know, and plus we will be covering it like a case study approach, right? That's the meaning of practical training. It's not just we are just gonna have a textbookish course. It's going to be more like a practical hands-on, where we are gonna when I say hands-on, please don't expect it will be a tool driven. So that is something, another point which I want to make it very, very clear. So tool is again, to give you that clarity. So tools are there in the market which will help you to implement data privacy for an organization. There are so many tools which are available in the market, and you will not able to understand each and every tool. But what is more important is, even before you reach a tool implementation stage, you need to have your foundation and fundamentals very clear, either for you or for the organization, right? So here we are not going to do a tool based approach. We are completely tool agnostic, sorry, vendor agnostic as well. So this is not going to be tool driven, but at the same time we will try to bring the insights which is going to be driven from a case study basis of different use cases from my experience and what is required as a for your day-to-day working. Is the DSA's DCDPO program is also not good enough to become a DPO. Highest weightage is generally IAPP certifications. Like for example, the combination of CIPPE plus CIPM is generally considered as the de facto gold standard for DPO certification. The reason is, as a DPO, you need to understand the flavor of how data privacy laws are interpreted for the organization, and second, how do you implement a program for an organization, which is your CIPM, from scratch, right? How do you set up the framework? How do you protect the personal data in the entire life cycle? That is all covered in CIPM. So the combination of CIPPE plus CIPM is globally recognized for a DPO certification, right? But I do take both the certifications, variant part of IAPP. But what I'm trying to bring here is a delta, the delta which is going to be more of a case study approach, right? So that doesn't demean those two certifications. They have a specific curriculum, right? So the certification curriculum is has a rigorous process because they are ANSI certified, ISO certified versions. So you have a fixed curriculum. This training is built based on the curriculum. And what I'm trying to bring here is more of what my candidates in the past, for the last 3 years, who have requested me to cover a specific practical approach, which is going to be useful for their day-to-day approach, right? That's the perspective here. So who should join this course? Basically, people who have already taken up the DPO role, or you have already in line with taking up those responsibilities. And usually my CAPM courses are the strength is usually between the CISOs and or the risk management head, data governance head, or data management leads. So a lot of people usually come from this background. So I still expect people who come quite senior in terms of their organization responsibility, who already foresee this responsibility is going to come to you, or you're planning to sort of jump into this role. So you are the ideal candidates, and it doesn't stop the other people, but most because organization in India cannot sort of expect everyone will have such skill set from day one, correct? So the people from CISO, legal head, or people from different background are naturally gonna do upskill and cross skill themselves, right? Those are the people who will naturally transition into this role. So having said that, so these people are more likely to take up these DPO positions, right? So they need to be sort of getting those insights to perform it day in, day out. So those are ideal candidates, plus any data privacy professionals who want to scale their career with DPO role, right? So this is another important point, because there will be a mandate. For example, right now, the law says that if you're a significant data fiduciary, you need to appoint a DPO, but that will not be a, a ceiling requirement, because my hunch is that every organization going forward will need to have a responsible person. You can call them privacy manager, privacy officer, you can call them with different functions, but everyone need to have a designated person, and this person needs to have the skill set, right? So irrespective of them becoming called as a DPO, but a responsible person for an organization managing data privacy, they need to have the skill set. They need to understand the entire personal data lifecycle, right? So for them, this course is definitely going to be very handy. Consultants and project managers, basically, who are implementing data privacy programs, like who are working in Big Four or any consulting firms, who wants to pick this up and want to enrich your skill set, then obviously you can join this course. And individuals who are experienced in audit, IT, legal, information security, who are aiming for a career change with data privacy role, of course you are also most welcome, because this is the best time to invest on yourself, because the market is going to be really booming with the enforcement date. If you are closely watching the market right now in Middle East, there are so many opportunity that was all created because of two data privacy laws, and the same is going to happen in India as well. In India, the volume is going to be much more higher, so this is the best time for someone to invest on the skill set. And these are some of the people who are ideal for this course. And what is a prerequisite? If you have a fundamental understanding of GDPR, and that's gonna really help you and in during the course. But anyways, I generally start any course with foundation. I like to start the discussions with the very bare minimum information, which someone, even if they don't understand what is a personal data, I usually start the course with those terminologies, right? So that makes it like anyone can join this course, right? So I'll try to keep it in a way that everyone will be able to bridge the gap. All right. So why DPO with InfosecTrain? So we are going to have flexible schedule, and we are going to have post-training support with no expiry date. So the groups will be active. Recorded session. First time we are going to give a recorded session. So you should ask my prior candidates who have cleared the certifications. They generally have this one problem statement, because we do not have the privilege to give recorded session for other IAPP courses, because that was IAPP's intellectual property. But this session we will be able to provide, and it's going to be a customized training, and we will give you a certificate for participation. So as I told you, I will be very transparent that certification may be good for claiming CP, good to publish it to the online, but will it be fetching a job? Not really. But the answers that you're going to give in the interview is going to be much more refined and in-depth basis this training. That's all I can definitely vouch for, right? So a key differentiator from other vendors, this is going to be very practical and quality preparation. So certified instructor with FIP, I do have certifications including CIPPE, CIPM, CIPT, and I have around 11 plus years of experience. And it will be a case study approach with a lot of case studies and templates and other useful resources, right? So in fact, I jumped into the session without giving a lot of detail into my experience. So since I say I'm a certified instructor with FIP, you should have some background about me to trust me, right? So I have 11 plus years of experience implementing data privacy program across the world. So I have worked with Middle East markets. I worked with European counterparts, right? And in my previous journey, I've worked with Accenture Middle East. I've worked with EY, implementing data privacy program for different organization. And currently, I'm running my own firm in terms of data privacy implementation. Plus, I'm a very passionate trainer. I've been training data privacy certifications for the last 3 years. I help more than 1,000 plus people trained for the data privacy courses, right? So that's a quick background about me. So any questions so far, anyone? I see few more questions. Will it also cover AI related regulation? No, Saurabh. As of now, we are not bringing AI. There is a dedicated certification which is going to be AIGP. So I will be planning to take that up, but this course is not going to have the coverage. We have 24 hours, so we will not have sufficient time to cover that. Imran, can someone having cyber or information security experience only be able to switch to DPO role with just certification only? See, with just certification, it will be little difficult, Imran, provided we need to see the years of experience, right? So if you're already in a senior position, then with just certification plus the knowledge, you can definitely be able to take up. As I told you, there will be a big dearth of skill set once the enforcement happens, right? So there will be not many people with the required skill set. For example, I used to see the your posters that requires data privacy jobs, right? They will ask 5 years of or 10 years of data privacy experience. Then you have to only hire Europeans, right? You cannot hire any Indians in that case. So no one, very handful of people might be working in data privacy before GDPR in India, right? So GDPR was brought in 2016, enforced in 2018. So from 18 to 24, we are hardly 6 years, right? So there will be skill set mismatch, and people cannot expect like they will have 5 years, 10 years experience people in data privacy, right? So most probably it's like people who already have senior positions or people who manage information security, they can naturally transition into DPO role. That's not going to be such a difficult task, right? So in that case, I think that will be your answer as well. All right. We unfortunately we do not have a timeline yet. We are all hoping when the new government forms, they will be coming up with this announcement pretty soon. I already saw some advertisements or news, whatever we can say, that within 100 days there will be some announcement on the enforcement. But I have heard enough of it for the last 1 year. So we have to wait for it. I think once the enforcement date comes, you will see there will be a huge surge of data privacy implementation requirements, and organization will be high, there will be a hiring spree for sure, right? So staying ahead of the curve is definitely going to help in terms of being prepared for such an opportunity, right? So it's very similar to what we saw with information security boom maybe 7 years before, right? And 7 8 years before, this is very similar to that situation, right, where data privacy requirements will be ruling the market for next 2 3 years. It might be a mandate for every information security officer or CISO will have to naturally be trained on data privacy as well. This might become a de facto requirement for all the CISOs. This is what even I predict. All right. So that's about why DPO with InfosecTrain. All right. So I'm gonna move in terms of responsibilities of a DPO, right? So if you are gonna pick up DPO as a position in any organization, right? So you need to have a vision in terms of how you're gonna build build a privacy program, how you're gonna manage the program, right? So for that, I would say it all starts with a very important foundation layer, which is understanding your business landscape. Many people will take this point maybe a little lightly, thinking like this may not have a direct tangible outcome. But any step that you do in terms of taking a decision, if you do not understand the organization and the business landscape, it will definitely lead to a lot of inaccuracies as well as deficient decisions, right? So understanding a business landscape is very, very important. The type of sector we work in, the type of mandate we have, the type of data that we deal, that's all going to change very rapidly based on the different types of sectors. For example, health sector handles your health data, which is your PHI. personal health information, right? So it might trigger you different types of health related mandates. If you are operating with US clients, you have HIPAA, and likewise you have PCI DSS, payment card industry data security standard. So this also has a segment of your personal data attached in a form of payment card. Likewise, COPA is there, which is for children's data, especially having US clients. Likewise, there are sectoral regulations which makes it a little difficult. Plus, for example, in India, RBI has mandate your banking transactions cannot leave in India. Like RBI will come up with framework. This is my hunch as well for data privacy, and it will make mandates like earlier we had ISO 27001 become like a de facto requirement for all the banks. Similarly, now 27701 might become a mandate, right? With the recent news of Kotak, I think every bank will be very cautiously looking at what is being given as specific requirements and guidance from RBI, which is a sectoral regulator. Likewise, we have SEBI, we have TRI. There are so many sectoral regulators who have a very important role in the data privacy implementation and enforcement path, right? So they might give some more stringent requirements over and above what is there in the DPDP Act. They may not dilute what is there, but they might give even more further specific requirements, right? So that's very important for us to understand the business landscape. And the second is what in tune to what we have been discussing is your identify your legal, regulatory, and contractual obligations, right? So if you do not know your obligation, if you do not know your role as a controller or a processor or a sub processor, this is going to lead to a lot of errors as well as in terms of violations of your compliance, right? So understanding that is very critical. Draft your obligations very clearly, part of your contracts, or wherever you are a controller, you need to know what is expected out of a controller or a fiduciary in Indian case. And this is very a foundation for entire privacy program to build upon it, right? And typically, for example, like an Indian scenario where you're going to bring a law from scratch, we sort of do a gap assessment in terms of where do we stand and what are the measures which is required to be implemented. We typically create a roadmap for the next 2 to 3 years, and this helps the organization to have a clear path of how do we achieve the compliance. Many people have a belief, like for example, have a thought we shouldn't start a data privacy program right now because there is no enforcement date, right? So I would slightly differ from that logic. The reason is, for medium to large organization, data privacy compliance is going to be a journey. This cannot be achieved over a period of 2 to 3 months or 6 months even. The reason is the data discovery process itself could take 3 to 6 months, right? Depends on the volume as well as the nuances and complexity of the organization, right? So that is the reason is you need to start early, not waiting for the enforcement date, right? So doing a data discovery is no way gonna dependent on the rules, because the rules will give you only fine tuning of what is mentioned in the law, correct? So the rules is not gonna have anything very substantially different from what is written in the law. So irrespective of when the rules comes out, it is very ideal for us to do uh, uh, a gap assessment, start the data discovery process, build your framework at a high level. These set of activities you can start irrespective of your enforcement date and the rules, right? So that's something which I always recommend all my customers. This is the best period for you to invest on your organization practices, right? So instead of waiting for the enforcement date. So the next step is, once you know your gaps, once you know what you're lacking, then probably you can focus on your policy procedure framework, build your organization structure, roles and responsibilities. Hiring a team will again need a budget, and you need to build your use case. You need to define these roles and responsibilities very clearly, right? And generally people add training and awareness as a last component, but training and awareness is an ongoing activity, right? So once you have developed roles and responsibilities, it's important that you start your training awareness at a very early stage, so that people get the seriousness of what is being brought as a change in the organization. what is their responsibility when it comes to handling personal data, right? So the next activity is personal data inventory. In fact, if you see the activity of developing policy procedure, doing building a data inventory, all happens parallelly. Just the sequence may represent that it's not a water flow model, it's more of a agile model, right? Where you will be developing a policy procedure as well as parallelly doing a data discovery and building your inventory of personal data, right? So this is again a very, very important step. Without having visibility of your organization, without having visibility of what kind of data that you deal, you cannot fulfill most of your data fiduciary obligation, right? So a simple example of responding to a data subject request, right? So if an ex-employee makes a request, you don't know where all the ex-employee's data reside within your organization. How will you able to make a data deletion or data access request? That becomes a nightmare of situation, right? So the timeline is typically 30 days or maybe 45 days. It varies on the notification, but to do that, you need to have a clear visibility, the data flow of the organization, like where all we share this data, who are processor, sub-processor, who all have a copy of this data, the backups. There are multiple touch points where that personal data might flow within the organization, outside the organization as well, right? So these are captured part of the ROPA, and then subsequently you need to do a detailed data discovery, right? With an automated tool. So this goes a hand-in-hand approach. We will discuss these things in detail during our sessions. And conducting the different types of assessments. This could be your privacy impact assessment, data protection impact assessment, transfer impact. There are endless number of assessments, transfer impact assessment, legitimate interest assessment, right? Likewise, there are n number of assessments which will be required by different obligations, right? If you're transferring data or if you're using legitimate use, right? If you are doing a high risk processing activity. So depending on the use case, multiple assessments could be triggered, and you will be also implementing subsequent controls to fix whatever high risk which you observe part of these assessments, right? Managing your data subject rights and your data breach, all these are a very critical component of any data privacy program, right? So you can see any data privacy laws around the world, one central component will always be data subject rights, because the very intention of your data privacy law is to give back the power to the data subjects, right? So this will be taken very, very seriously. Imagine if you are a B2C organization, the amount of workload that you're going to face going forward is going to be very, very high, right? If you're not being prepared right now, or if you're not started thinking about it, it's going to be a very pain point when the enforcement date comes, right? So you need to start thinking about it. How will you manage data subject rights? How will you respond to the voluminous nature how we see in India, correct? So it's only a matter of time, right? Once some people things easily get into a trending motion in today's world, right? One person gets a sort of a fame by completing a data subject rights, and he was able to make someone get a penalty, then suddenly it could become a trend, right? Then people will start taking it for those reasons. I would like to happen it in that way, right? Because people will need to exercise there, right? People need to sort of ask the tough questions to the organizations, and organization should be prepared, right? So we organization usually preach to everyone that we are always ahead of the curve, but this is actually the time to prove it that we are actually ahead of the curve or not, right? And the last is implementing your continuous compliance and monitoring, right? With metrics being defined. So this is again a very important element in terms of where, as I told you, it's a journey, right? So people shouldn't be mistaken that there are some fixed templates we throw and we will try to say that we are certified to DPDP Act, we are certified to GDPR. Those are all myth, right? If you want to be compliant, it's a continuous journey. It's only start of a process when you start doing all these things. The time and again you have to be compliant, you have to ensure that you are fulfilling the obligations. You need to respond at any point of time the request coming from a data subject or from the authorities for that matter. You need to be ready and prepared, and you need to focus on your continuous monitoring and implementation, right? So these are some of the very critical aspects a DPO need to perform part of a organization setup.